I'll be going over the arguments that they brought up in their second constructive, and then extending some of the arguments that our first speaker brought up. So first, the only arguments that they extended was like this zones argument and the sexual crimes arguments. They never really answered any of the direct refutations that we made against prostitution as a whole. So first, I'll go into answering zones specifically. First of all, zones don't really solve children's prostitution industries, nor do they solve anything related to like coercion. They completely conceded the card about how Aboriginal girls and women are often forced into the business. Thus, even if they are in these zones and they are protected, that doesn't change the fact that they were coerced into the activity. Thus, it is unjust. Second of all, extend the card that overall the Taiwanese legislature does not approve of the legalization of prostitution as a whole, which means that they can't access the solvency of all of these advantages because overall, because Taiwan's government is so unwilling to pass these policies in the first place, they probably won't be able to create any change at all. Third of all, they conceded the fact that there are already red light zones in the status quo. There are already regions within Taiwan where the practice of prostitution is already legal. Seeing that this is already happening in the status quo, there is no need for a plan, seeing that these zones are already happening in the system that we live in. Next, answer to their argument about sexual crimes as a whole. First of all, they don't take into account the fact that if we allow the prostitution industry to become a legal business, then it's going to increase the amount of people that wish to go there. If we look at the example of Macau, because they managed to make prostitution a legal business, it has been turned into a prostitution tourism industry. Thus, you see every year going to Macau in order to exploit this industry of like a legal prostitution business. Thus, this increases the possibility of STDs as a whole. The fact that they can't address this impact means that the fact that nowhere in their plan does it state that these prostitutes should be allowed to go and like take weekly checkups or like monthly checkups, which means that overall the risk of STDs will rise, which means the impact of this will be huge. The second answer to this is that women's rights are key, and that we assert that in a patriarchal practice like prostitution shouldn't be allowed to continue like the way that it is. Instead, we offer you an alternative in our counter plan where we say if we increase the taxes on certain things like cigarettes and alcohol, then we generate a certain amount of profit and revenue where the money can go into educating these prostitutes and and increasing job opportunities for these people to be able to enter the job market and do something else other than prostitution. We have already asserted that the main reason that these prostitutes entered this industry in the first place is because of an economic deficiency. If we allow them an alternative job opportunity, then they're more likely to take it, which means that we're able to access two advantages. The first is the fact that we're able to access the advantage of we're taking away a patriarchal system like prostitution that emphasizes women's inferiority to men. Second of all, we're accessing the impact of these women being able to access like better job opportunities and being able to do more with their lives. Not only that, even if you don't buy anything that I stated here, because they didn't address any of our arguments here, you have to assume that they're true. This is a second constructive. The fact that they conceded these arguments mean that these arguments have to be weighed against them. Their last speech is too late to answer these arguments. And next, specifically on our counterplan, so because overall, like if we increase the tax on cigarettes and alcohol by only a small margin, then we'll be able to solve most of the issues that they're talking about. First, they talk about how like these zones are needed in order to like ensure the protection of these prostitutes. Now, this revenue will go into preventing this practice from continuing in the first place, because these prostitutes will be able to access like safer job opportunities, like working in offices instead of buildings that sponsor prostitution. Second of all, to answer their crime argument, this sexual crime, if there really is a correlation, as they stated, between like prostitution and sexual crimes, then what you need to consider is the fact that overall, if we allow these prostitutes to have more job opportunities, it means that these crimes will go down because we're taking out the root cause of why these crimes happen in the first place. They assert that these crimes happen because of prostitutes. If we take the prostitutes out of the equation and allow these women and men to actually access better industries in terms of job opportunities, then they won't be exposed to the same types of threats in terms of sexual violences nor anything else. Not only that, the fact that they conceded most of our answers and the fact that